I'd like to welcome you all to the first session this morning, where we'd like to talk about how you can find the best possible home for your research and what tools and indicators you can use to get a better insight into the journal you're submitting to. Before we start, just a couple of words for introduction. I have the pleasure today to represent a team, and I'm actually stepping in for my colleague Val Tang-Brook from our Life Sciences Journals team, who had an unforeseen clash in her schedule. I'm an executive publisher in Elsevier's Health and Medical Sciences Journals team, and in that role, I oversee the management of a portfolio of oncology and radiation oncology titles. These include multidisciplinary titles, such as the European Journal of Cancer with an impact factor of above 7, and flagship society journals such as Radiotherapy and Oncology, but also a select group of specialty journals, including lung cancer, the breast, cancer epidemiology, but also several gold open access titles at various stages of the life cycle. Right, before we look at some tools available to find relevant journals and how to evaluate the impact of a journal, I'd like to take the opportunity to have a look at the Elsevier's Oncology Journals Network and emphasize some of the benefits we offer to authors submitting to this network. Well, we know how critical it is that your research is found and read by the right people, whether that's fellow researchers, policymakers, or educators. Our family of 50+ titles provides both breadth and depth of coverage, ranging from basic to translational and clinical research, covering all cancer types and offering a wide choice of publishing models and open access options. We can offer a comprehensive portfolio of titles. In fact, between them, we publish about 18% of all papers in the field. So not only does this offer you a great choice, but crucially, we've also set up smart connections between our journals and editors. So we offer an article transfer service. Working together, our editors ensure your article reaches the right audience. And in some cases, they may recommend transfers or direct acceptance to another journal in the network. The choice is always yours, though. Then we've only just implemented a new service, which is called Article Advance. And this tailored service is currently available for a subset of oncology titles and provides authors with dedicated editorial support and a range of other benefits, ensuring a fast and easy submission process, but also other benefits such as complementary language editing, article transfer waivers, and reviewer appreciation vouchers. So together with an editorial board community of more than 1,000 key opinion leaders in oncology, our dedicated editorial teams are continuously evolving to cover emerging fields. And leveraging the wealth of experience, our reviewers work with those teams to make your paper the best it can be. And we do recognize the vital role they all play in delivering rigorous peer review and advancing knowledge in the field. That's why we're constantly seeking new ways to say thank you. So for example, Elsevier's reviewer recognition platform provides reviewers with a means of publicly showcasing their efforts and receiving credit for their work. So I do like to encourage you to visit the dedicated sites that we've set up to explain the Oncology Journals Network and the Article Advance program. And for a list of participating titles, I've included the links to these sites at the top of this slide. So before we dive into the metrics section, let's take a step back and provide some background to explain why it is so important to make your article stand out. The number of published papers worldwide is growing at an accelerating pace, nearing a total of 40 million in 2013 and 55 million published papers in 2018. With such an impressive and ever-growing output, many researchers find it a challenge to keep up with the literature. In fact, recent research by Elsevier has shown that on average, researchers spend 7 hours a week on browsing and reading literature. So this is a substantial portion of their time and still will not prevent good papers from falling through the cracks sometimes. So it is your job to make sure this doesn't happen to your paper. Well, it's really, really important to select an appropriate journal so that your work will reach the intended audience. We'll start with looking at the aims and scopes of the journal. If your paper is outside the scope of the journal, it'll likely be rejected immediately by the editors, irrespective of the quality of the research and the manuscript, just because the topic doesn't fit with the journal. And by waiting for this first decision, you have lost valuable time. And it's also very important that you do not gamble by submitting your manuscript to more than one journal at a time. International ethics standards prohibit multiple or simultaneous submissions, and editors do find out. So our editorial submission systems automatically check for similarity and duplicate submissions, and this information is made available to editors. Also remember that your supervisor, who's often a co-author on the paper, has co-responsibility for your work. So ask them for help. Also ask your colleagues when you're deciding where to submit. They may be more familiar with the different journals that are relevant to your field. So investigate all candidate journals to find out their aims and scopes, accepted types of articles, readership, and current hot topics. And here's a tip. Articles in your references will usually lead you directly to the right journals. So aside from finding the right journal, it's also wise to evaluate what the best reachable journal is, but what is actually achievable with your research. And I do want to emphasize, do check the guide for authors and ensure you comply with the requirements stated in those. As an example of tools available to authors, I'd like to quickly show what Elsevier's Journal Finder tool can do for you and support you in finding the right outlet for your research. So the Journal Finder uses smart search technology and field of research specific vocabularies to match your article to Elsevier journals. What you need to do, so simply insert your title and abstract and select the appropriate field of research for the best results. Well, based on this information, you'll be presented with a list of journals matching your paper. The Journal Finder allows you to filter by journal metrics, such as speed, but also impact factor, site score, or acceptance rates, and also by publishing model. And I'd like to emphasize here as well that other publishers offer similar tools, such as the Journal Suggester from Springer Nature, for example. Okay, so now let's move on to the bibliometric indicators that are available. So we'll briefly try and survey some of the key indicators of journal impact, from the familiar and traditional impact factor to the less familiar, including the eigenfactor and article influence, the SJR and SNP, to an alternative application for the author-based metric, the H-index. So unfortunately, there isn't time to go through every single of these indicators, so we'll pick on a couple of these. Right, let's begin with the more traditional impact factor that's been available since the 1960s. So the impact factor is defined as a ratio between citations and recent citable items published in a journal. That is the average number of citations received per published article. So the impact factor will be calculated for journals listed in Clarivate Web of Science Citation Index, and is part of the journal citation reports, so not available to all journals. Citations to documents of all types in the impact factor year are counted in the numerator of the fraction, while only those deemed to be sourced or citable items published in the preceding 2 years are counted in the denominator. So as such, editorial material, including news items, correspondence, letters, book reviews, or abstracts are not counted in the denominator and may inflate the impact factor over and above that of a journal containing none or few of these items. So there is some criticism regarding the impact factor and the use as an indicator of a journal's impact. So what you can see on this slide, this figure represents an average citation rate over what is typically a highly skewed distribution of citations across articles published in a journal. This is illustrated graphically here from a figure taken from a BMJ article, which was already published in 1997. So here we see that 50% of a typical journal's articles may account for 85% of its citations in the impact factor calculation, while just 15% of articles may account for 50% of these citations. As such, taking an average citation rate over a non-normal distribution may not accurately reflect the typical citation rate of almost any article published therein. And this skew can also be seen at higher levels of aggregation in the main image here for the top 20 journals for a single subject category. So journals are sorted in descending order of their impact factor, and the overlaid bars show these values graphically. It's easy to see the rapid tailing away of impact factor values across these journals, and the dozens more beneath them that complete this category, in the same way that we saw a rapid tailing away of citations across articles published within a single journal on the previous slide. So there's alternatives to the impact factor. One of them is the site score. So let's look at that. The site score metrics are a suite of indicators calculated from data in Scopus. And Scopus is the world's largest abstract and citation database of peer-reviewed literature. So how is it calculated? The site score 2019, for example, counts the citations received in 2016 to 2019 to typically peer-reviewed papers, such as articles, reviews, but also conference papers, book chapters, and data papers published in these same 4 years, and divides this by the number of publications published in 2016 to 2019. As such, it can be thought of as a popularity metric. And we consider the site score as a comprehensive and very transparent score. And what's also available is the site score tracker. It is calculated for the current year on a monthly basis until it is fixed as a permanent value in May of the following year. So permitting a real-time view on how the metric builds as citations accrue. So also once this is fixed in May, the other site score metrics are computed and contextualize the score with rankings and other indicators to allow comparison. So the underlying data for more than 23,000 journals, book series, and conference readings are freely available at scopus.com sources. And again, as I said, they're published each year at the end of May. In the 2018 site score metrics release, for example, of the 2017 scores, more than 23,000 titles received a site score metric across 330 different fields of research. And this included over 12,000 titles with a site score for which no impact factor is available. And that's owing to differences in data source coverage. And also, we'd like to call out that 31 open access journals rank first in their subject category. And there were also some top newcomers to the rankings, including high title, high impact titles from quality imprints such as Springer Nature or Cell Press Group. The Scimago Journal Rank, SJR, is based on the concept of a transfer of prestige between journals via their citation links. So this is drawing on a similar approach to the Google PageRank algorithm, which assumes that important websites are linked to from other important websites. And the SJR weights each incoming citation to a journal by the SJR of the citing journal with a citation from a high SGR source counting for more than a citation from a low SGR source. So like CiteScore, the SGR accounts for journal size by averaging across recent publications and is calculated annually. The SGR is also powered by Scopus data and is freely available alongside CiteScore at the same website, scopus.com sources. So another indicator is the SNP, the source normalized impact per paper. The source normalized impact per paper is a sophisticated metric that intrinsically accounts for field-specific differences in citation practices. It does so by comparing each journal's citations per publication with the citation potential of its field, defined as the set of publications citing that journal. The SNP therefore measures the contextual citation impact and enables direct comparison of journals in different subject fields, since the value of a single citation is greater for journals in fields where citations are less likely and vice versa. So like CiteScore and SGR, SNP is also calculated annually from Scopus data and is freely available alongside CiteScore and SGR at scopus.com sources. So alongside these bibliometric indicators these days, it's also worthwhile to have a look at social media metrics. So there's several ways to look at these. We have the alt metrics or the PlumpX metrics, for example, that look at social media and other channels and what attention a journal and its publications, its content generates in social media. The PlumpX metrics, for example, that you can see as a screenshot here, they look at engagement of readers with content on Twitter, the number of tweets, retweets, for example, and Facebook shares and likes and whatnot. But they also look at mentions in news outlets, citations received, readers in certain platforms, for example. Okay, we also wanted to have a look at how do you find out what the right journal is. But in this day and age, with the increasing popularity of open access publishing routes, that's also unfortunately led to the rise of rogue or predatory journals. So Think, Check, Submit has been formed as a new initiative by a group of organizations such as the DOAJ, COPE, Biomed Central, the Association of Learned and Professional Society Publishers, and several publishers, of course. So what is this about? First of all, before you submit, think. With more research is being published worldwide, new journals are launched each week. The stories of publisher malpractice and deception are also on the rise. So it can be challenging to find up-to-date guidance when choosing where to publish. So how can you be sure the journal you're considering is the right journal for your research? So first, check. Do you and your colleagues know the journal? Have you read any articles in the journal before? Is it easy to discover the latest papers in the journal? Can you easily identify and contact the publisher? Is the publisher name clearly displayed on the journal website? Can you contact the publisher by phone, email, or post? Is the journal clear about the type of peer review it uses? Are articles indexed in services that you use? Is it clear what fees will be charged? Does the journal site explain what these fees are for and when they will be charged? Do you recognize the editorial board? Have you heard of the editorial board members? Do the editorial board mention the journal on their own websites? Is the publisher a member of a recognized industry initiative? For example, do they belong to the Committee on Publication Ethics? Or is the publisher a member of another trade association? So before you submit, complete this checklist and submit your article only if you're happy you can answer yes to most or all of these questions. You need to be confident your chosen journal will have a suitable profile among your peers to enhance your reputation and your chance of gaining citations. Publishing the right journal for your research will raise your professional profile and help you progress in your career. So your paper definitely should be indexed or archived and be easily discoverable. And of course, you should expect a professional publishing experience where your work is reviewed and edited. Only then should you submit your article. Okay, so before we stop for questions, I'd also like to invite you to take part in our cover competition. I'm very excited to announce the launch of a new title in our portfolio, which is called Advances in Cancer Biology Metastasis, with Dr. Ira Ida Skvortsova as the editor-in-chief. Everyone submitting a cover will receive an APC waiver for papers submitted in 2021, and the winning cover will also be presented with a printed poster cover. So you can see an email address there, and that's where you can submit any possible, any potential cover you'd like to suggest. Okay, so I do like to thank you very much for attending this session. And I'd also like to encourage you to check out our Research Academy platform. You can register for free and you can benefit from a vast number of research and resources helping you along the publishing journey. And I also like to call out some of our partners that we work with that are helping and supporting researchers, which are Research for Life, for example, Author Aid, the National Postdoctoral Association, Sense About Science, and Cell Monitor, to name just a few. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening. And yeah, I hope there'll be some questions.
Yeah, Martina, thank you very much. And does anybody have questions regarding the publication with Elsevier, or perhaps any other questions? There are no questions in chat, and as I can see, there are no questions to Martina, but if you would like to clarify any problems or any questions, or you would like to receive any full description about any problems, I hope that Martina will agree to answer all your related questions.
Yes, of course. We'd be more than happy to take any questions also after the presentations and after the conference.
Yeah, thank you very much, Martina. And now we have to move to another presentation by Margaret Sostakovska-Rodash from Open Medicine. Margaret, you're welcome to present your view on the publications.
Hi, good morning. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, please make the screen full.
Okay. Okay, is it working?
Yeah,
great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Margaret Shostakowska-Rodzosz. I represent the Greater Publisher, and before I will tell you more about the topic of my presentation, I want to do some little introduce. I am the assistant editor in Open Medicine journal that is published by the Greater Publisher. That is a scholarly publishing house specializing in academic literature. We have hundreds of years of history. We started with publishing scientific books, but nowadays we have 800 journals in various disciplines like humanities, social sciences, science, technical medicine. We also have the offices around the globe. Today, I want to tell you about the journey of your manuscript. So what is happening to your manuscript from submission to publication? So I hope that after my presentation, you will be more aware of what is happening from the other side. Um, so the publication process is consists of 3 main steps: peer review, copy editing, typesetting, and proofreading, which is usually called production, and final publication. From the previous presentation, you know how to choose the journal of interest. So after you choose your best journal and you submit the manuscript, then what is happening with that? First of all, your manuscript go through scope, quality, and plagiarism control check. Plagiarism control check is usually done by the special tools to that are checking for identical sequences, and they're checking if the part of the work or all work is plagiated. And also your manuscript go through the scope and quality check that is mainly done by editor-in-chief, managing editor, or assistant editor that is dedicated for that. During this scope and quality check, the person who is responsible for that is checking your manuscript. Is it inside the scope of the journal, and if its quality meets the requirements of the journal. If everything is okay, then your paper goes to the editor, and this person is actually responsible for whole peer review process. So it is extremely important that the editors would be right persons. Usually editors are also the specialists in the field, which is very important because that people can choose the best reviewers, that people can also check your submission on the scientific in a scientific way, not only in technical way about on the language or references format. So it is so that people are actually the most important part of journals. After that, editors are searching and inviting the reviewers. Then the reviewers are doing their commentary and feedback. If there are at least 2 comments from 2 different specialists in the field, then the manuscript go back to the editor, and editor is doing additional revision, additional review and additional check, and is adding his or her own comments, also is making the first decision. After that, the paper goes to editor-in-chief, sometimes to managing editor, who is making the first decision with the letter to the author. As I said before, the editors are actually the most important people during this peer review process, because from them it depends who will review the paper and if the reviews will be done fairly. So one of the so editor role is finding the reviewers, monitoring the quality of the reviews, making the first decision, and staying in contact with the managing editor and chef. That person is also staying in contact with authors and with reviewers during the revision process. Finding the right reviewers isn't really that easy task, because people who are reviewers should be active scientists who are specialists in the field, people who are publishing the papers in the topic, in the field. And it would be great if those people would have peer review experience, and also those people cannot be associated with authors by any means. So when we are choosing the reviewers, we must avoid former co-authors and co-workers, or people who are working in the same institute, which is kind of the obvious thing. Also, I know that in some journals, you are requested as an author to um, write some potential reviewers, and in my opinion, in most of the journals that I know, and in most of the editorial board members that I spoke to, these recommended reviewers by author are usually also suspected ones of maybe having any meanings with the author. So it's most safer to not really use that database. For finding the reviewers, and if you want to be a reviewer, there is a great Pablons database that is made by Claritative Web of Science. And every active scientist might register inside the Web of Science, inside the Pablons database, and choose if that person wants to be a part of the peer review process as a reviewer or not. I would highly recommend being a reviewer because it is a great way to improve the science. Also, editors are people who are monitoring the quality of the reviews. So the editors should check if the reviewer comments are scientifically sound and if the criticism is constructive. Also, we need to check if the reviewers did not do anything because it is very important to review process to be blind review process so that we can avoid any discrimination or any misconduct of any kind. Also, the checking of the quality of the reviews is also the last step when we can control and be sure that the reviewers are impartial. Editors also do the first decisions, and they are doing the first decisions with taking into account feedback from the reviewers. Also, they are making their own review about the paper. They are adding some comments, and also the last decision that is sent to the author is containing all feedback from reviewers and all feedback from editors that were involved in proceeding the paper. So being an editor is like being the bridge between reviewers and authors, because during all the revision process, the editors must let the authors and reviewers communicate in a fair way, and they cannot take any sides or anything like that. As I said before, it is very important to find the right reviewers, so it would not be appreciated if I would not tell you about the role of the reviewers, especially that some of you most probably sometimes review the papers. Actually, reviewers are the most important, one of the most important people during the fair peer review process. And it is very important to prepare very high quality reviews. For doing that, there's a very obvious thing that you should do is to read manuscript very carefully. And I know from my own experience as a researcher, and I also know that from my colleagues and lab partners, that sometimes we have that little feeling that the reviewer maybe did not read the manuscript very carefully, because sometimes the commentaries are the answers for the commentaries might be found somewhere in the manuscript. So if you will do the review anytime, it would be great if you would not be the reviewer too from all the scientific jokes. And also be sure to address all parts of the manuscript. And I know that it might also sound obvious, but as an editor, I also experience that sometimes the reviewers, when sending the papers for the revision with giving a decision about major or minor revision, sometimes those reviewers are not prepared to go back to that paper and to see the revised version of the paper, which is kind of weird because the revision process is actually the scientific probably need to recheck this paper. And remember that if you were deciding to review a paper, you are doing one of the most important parts of the peer review publishing process. So I highly recommend that. I also know from my lab partners that many of scientists are avoiding doing the reviews, which is sad, I guess, because for me as a scientist, it is great to see the new papers in the field of the interest, and it is great that I could actually have some participation if publishing good studies. Usually, in every journal, if you will decide to be the reviewer, you will have to fill the reviewer form, and that is actually somehow a guide for you to see what parts of the manuscript and what parts of your review should be done most carefully. And reviews are very, very important. And also from my experience as an author, I must say that every paper that I submitted, I think it's 100% better, and it's highly improved by a constructive commentary, and it is much better after the revision process. So remember that your feedback helps create better science for all of us. So after this peer review process, you can have 3 possible decisions about your article. That is revise, accept, and reject. When the paper is sent to revision, reviewers' comments are sent back to the author, and the author actually is making a decision if he or she wants to do the revision of a paper, if that person is capable of answering all the feedback from the reviewers. And after the author submit the revised version with the answer to the reviewer's comments, the paper is sent back to the same reviewers, and also is sent back and also proceed by the same editor, because it is very important that the one editor would be will be handling the one paper, the certain paper. If your paper would be sadly rejected, then the publication is declined, and you will receive the reviewer comments and a guidance for you that would maybe help you approve the research, or maybe you would also have some kind of help in which other journals maybe you could try. And the last decision that is possible and is also is usually done after the revision process is accept, and then the acceptance letter is sent to the author, and the production starts. The production is the process when the journal is producing your paper. Usually it is the proofreading process for you, but for journal is much more complicated because your manuscript must be typeset and the copy editing must be done. During this process also is done language editing, and all the figures and all the formats are changed to the formats for the final publication in the journal. After that copy editing and typesetting process, you will receive your paper for first proofreading to check if everything is okay, to make some little corrections, especially usually with the language, sometimes with the typesetting. After you will do the proofreading, then all your corrections would be printed into the manuscript, and then you would need to check it again if everything was done by the technical team clearly, and if everything was done the way you wanted to be done. After that, if everything is okay, the final version of the article is published. Usually, the online publication is first. And after that, article is also sent to abstracting and indexing services like Scopus, Web of Science, or PubMed. During the copy editing process, the technical team is checking the language quality, misspelling corrections, and checking this citation format and also quality of the figures, which is very important. And our publisher provides the immediate worldwide barrier-free access to full-text scholars. Authors retain the copyrights to their work, which are released by Creative Commons license, and many of our journals, especially in the biomedicine field, are open access. I also want to inform you about our journal, Open Medicine, that was launched in 2006 and transferred into open access in 2015. We are indexed in the biggest databases, PubMed, Scopus, Web of Science. We have only one issue per year that consists of 150 articles annually, and we have a continuous publishing model. So after the final publication, your work will be published in our website and indexed in all those indexing services. We provide fast and fair and constructive peer review. We have no limitations on color figures, and our system to submission for online submissions is editorial manager. And at the end of my presentation, I just want to encourage you to become the authors or to support the peer review process by becoming a reviewers or joining editorial boards in the journals you are interested in with the cooperation. Also, I want to present you the portfolio of our biomedicine open access journals. And thank you very much for your attention. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you very much, Margaret. A very kind offer from you, and I hope that our conference participants would like to use this offer, and they will submit some papers to your journal. And we have some questions, but I would like to move to another presentation because the questions are not stated specifically to any publisher representatives, but I suppose to all of them. And perhaps after all presentations, we could discuss such stated questions, and if you agree, of course. And then after all presentations, Martina, you and Teresa and Radhisha would answer these questions. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we are moving to another presentation by Teresa Bernasconi and Radisha Kohombage from Frontiers in Oncology. And Teresa, you can share your screen now. Thank you. Yeah, perfect.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, lovely. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to start my video. Just because I want you to be able to put a face on who we are, I will move this over here so that that doesn't get in the way. Do apologize. Right. I hope everyone can see and hear correctly. I wanted to say a huge thank you to Ira for letting us come and speak with you today. Also to Martina and Margaret for their presentations. I am Teresa. It's lovely to meet you all. Thank you for attending. I am the Journal Manager for Frontiers in Oncology. And I am here with the wonderful Radisha, who is a journal specialist on our journal. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, we're going to make this quite short. So hopefully, Ira, we will have lots of time at the end for discussion. So yes, please put any questions in the chat and we can get to those at the end. So let me move on to the next slide. So as you'll see from the agenda, we would like to discuss Frontiers' mission and the strategic partnerships between our editors and the journal teams to empower our authors. So first, quickly, we would like to highlight the dream team that makes up our journal and our wider success. Secondly, some key highlights of the excellent progress this year on our continuing mission to make science open, as well as some new features, particularly for editors. Thirdly, an overview of Frontiers in Oncology and how we've built our journal into the fastest growing multidisciplinary oncology journal. And finally, as mentioned previously, we'll take the time to answer any of your questions. Really, today is very much about empowering you to become involved as authors and editors and to give you the confidence to do so. So let's kick off with our dream team of experts. Namely, I would like to discuss the valued relationship between our editors and our publishing professionals who really do work together with the goal to make our journal the field leader of the future. So here you can see a collection of lovely faces. Here I would like to highlight our growing Frontiers in Oncology editorial board. And these are our 40 specialty chief editors highlighted here. As you can see, our board is expansive and we have over 7,000 leading experts now working with us to support all 19 sections of the journal. And we are very, very proud to be led by Field Chief Editor, Professor Giuseppe Giacconi from Cornell University in the USA, who is both a leading oncologist and a highly recognized scholar. And beyond our journal, we are part of an amazing global network of leading researchers who have joined the Frontiers family. Here you can see the most highly represented academic affiliations across the entire Frontiers journal platform. And these are top institutions worldwide, from the University of California, Harvard in the USA, to Chinese Academy of Sciences, from UCL, which happens to be my alma mater, and Oxford in the UK, to Helmholtz and Max Planck in Germany, and many, many more. And we, in turn, are part of a wider global team. Frontiers is now a truly worldwide company with publishing, technology, and admin teams working seamlessly from home to support you. During this time away from our offices, we've been more productive than ever, even with our kids and our cats and our dogs all in the background. So, Frontiers' mission. We are on a mission to make all science open. To do this, the default option to publish science needs to be in open access journals. We have to show researchers, funders, and other stakeholders that this is possible by becoming the largest and most recognized cited publisher. Today, Frontiers is the 12th largest and 5th most cited publisher. As you can see, based on average citation per year, we are ahead of Elsevier, Wiley, and even Springer Nature. And our aim is to get to the top of both of these leaderboards. For this, all our journals aim to become leaders in both size and citation, offering our communities a high quality, open access publishing option. But changing the world with open science is not just about citations. It is also about global readership of freely accessible research, making it the default for everyone. Here too, we achieve more year on year, with now 1 billion article views and downloads cumulatively, and 1.6 million citations. Open access is recognized amongst the research community more and more as a way to accelerate solutions to global challenges and allowing for more innovation. And I believe this year has been proof of that more than ever. These are the institutions who are already getting behind the momentum we are creating and are joining us in agreements to support their affiliated members with regards to APC payment and funding support. So that the APCs are the fees that we pay to publish open access, article processing charges. These agreements, and indeed all our APCs, go to funding our publishing platform and staff. They go into developing state-of-the-art technology to ensure the quality of all your submissions. But it also gets given back to the community through means of our flexible and inclusive fee support program available to all authors. All our authors are invited to apply for fee support, and preferential discounts are given to those researchers with less access to scientific funding. And those of you who hold appointments with our editorial boards and act as reviewers, as Margaret was mentioning earlier. In addition, we subsidize journals in newer fields and areas that have lower research budgets with our APC revenue. And here you can see very clearly, transparently, the APCs which we charge in Frontiers in Oncology. As mentioned previously, I think by everyone who works in publishing, you know, we want to ensure that you feel confident with your choice of publisher. So, our mission at Frontiers is to make all science open. And whilst we hope that you will choose Frontiers, we want you to feel confident in your choice to publish open access with any publisher. So when considering open access publishing and needing to budget for article processing charges, it is important to ensure that you are getting what you are paying for. As Martina mentioned earlier, think, check, submit is incredibly important. And finding the correct publisher to collaborate with and publish your work is essential in maintaining your credibility as a scholar. As someone from our board once mentioned, publications are like tattoos. And they stay with you forever. When you would choose a tattoo artist that would leave a permanent mark on your skin, you would surely profile the best tattoo artist, someone that made you feel confident and someone who believed in your vision. And similarly, you should do this when searching for the best home for your papers and leaving a permanent mark on your professional career. So here are some of the questions that we would like you to ask when considering an open access publisher. Is the journal a member of COPE, the Committee on Publication Ethics? COPE has been mentioned before, but very basically, by being a member of COPE, the publisher has demonstrated themselves as upholding best practice in the ethics of scholarly publishing. And indeed, we at Frontiers in Oncology have been a member of COPE since 2015. So please, first thing you should look at when looking at a publisher is, are they a member of COPE? Secondly, where is the journal indexed? Again, this has been mentioned by our other colleagues in publishing. And here I've marked the three big ones. So the DOAJ, the Directory of Open Access Journals, PubMed, and Scopus. All these names have been mentioned in the presentations previously. When looking at an open access publisher, are they indexed in these three, the big three? So indeed, at Frontiers in Oncology, we are indexed in these three. We're also indexed in Google Scholar, Crossref, Chemical Abstract Service, CLOCKS. But as I say, with other publishers, please do ensure that at least these three are being used for indexing. Number 3, does the journal have article processing charges? And if so, are they clearly stated? Does the journal offer fee support for authors? Open access is a new way of publishing. Some people, perhaps more of your supervisors' generation, are not used to the idea of paying fees to get work published. And we're very happy to discuss this with anyone who has doubts. The journal that you choose should be very transparent about all fees to publish within their journal, and they should be clearly stated. And more importantly, you should always check about fee support. The most recognized publishers will have fee support for those researchers who are most in need, to be able to assist publication in open access and to really make open access the norm across all different publishing types. So please do look at fees and also fee support. Number 4, do you recognize anyone on the journal's editorial boards? It is important to ensure that your manuscript is peer reviewed and by names that you trust. So before submitting your manuscript to a publisher, check their editorial board. Do they advertise it on their website? Are they proud of their editors? I can surely tell you that we are very, very proud of our editors, because the editors, they act as ambassadors for our journal and they uphold our integrity, but they also ensure that all your papers get published correctly and in the very best version they could possibly be. So much like the tattoo artist I mentioned earlier, who would you want handling your publication record? And lastly, is the journal easily contactable? I can tell you that one of the factors that I am most proud of working at Frontiers in Oncology is that we have an amazing relationship with our authors, with our editors. We are easily contactable and we have a fast response rate. But I am an incredibly proud manager of a team of specialists who really will do everything they can to ensure the best experience for authors and editors. And I know this works because I receive a lot of high user satisfaction responses to surveys that we do and discussions that I have. So really, we hope to empower all our authors and editors through these close relationships. So yes, talking about my wonderful specialists, at this point, I will pass you over to Radisha, who will talk a little bit more about the journal itself.
Thank you, Teresa. Good morning, everyone. As Teresa mentioned, my name is Radisha, and I'm one of the journal specialists for Frontiers in Oncology. And for the next couple of minutes, I'd like to tell you a little more about our journal specifically, the content we like to share, as well as the quality we strive to maintain. So yes, for us specifically, our journal is the fastest growing multidisciplinary oncology journal. Despite the challenges of 2020, our publications have been on the rise, led by our visionary chief editor, who are highlighted here, alongside our field chief editor, Giuseppe Giucconi from Cornell University. Frontiers in Oncology is separated into 19 different specialty sections, with hopefully more to come in 2021. And all these specialty sections are led by chief editors who are recognized in their field of expertise. And as a quick note, which Teresa mentioned that I'd like to echo, is to carefully assess the journal's editorial board when choosing the publisher to collaborate with. See if you can recognize any leading experts in the field you are working in, and don't hesitate to reach out to them to ask about their experience with the journal as well. So some highlights. In our 19 sections, we have published over 6,600 articles, hosted over 340 article collections, or as we'd like to call it, research topics. Here are some of the highlights of the journal from the past year. As an example, our wonderful specialty chief editor of thoracic oncology section together led a very impactful article collection around a very important and current topic.
Oh, you also will do the presentation in the morning.
I'm not sure
right?
if everyone can hear me.
We will present in the morning.
Okay, maybe
So you will listen.
Please mute your microphones.
There will be a lot of guests.
Okay, I'll just carry on. So I was saying, as an example, our wonderful specialty chief editors of thoracic oncology section together led a very impactful article collection around a very important and current topic, which has now amassed over 30,800 views globally. Next slide, please, Teresa. Thank you. So at Frontiers, we have developed a winning formula to build large and impactful journals. We recruit top editors who lead exciting research topics, which attract quality submissions that are swiftly and rigorously peer-reviewed. We promote these impactful publications through our media channels, such as Twitter, LinkedIn, which then in turn leads to achieving important impact metrics for our journal, which in turn attracts more top editors to the board to be part of our venture. And quality is at the heart of this. We set high standards for our editorial board to ensure the quality of the journal is maintained, and we encourage leaders of the field to curate their own research topics, not only to spotlight their work, but also to spark collaborations with those who may be outside of Frontiers. And each research topic undergoes careful checks and is, of course, signed off by our chief editor of the corresponding journal section. And every submission is carefully screened by Ira, our artificial intelligent review assistant, which I will discuss with you in more detail in the next slide. And of course, rigorous peer review is at the foundation to ensure publications are valid contributions to the field of oncology. So to give you a few more details about Ira, she is our AI review assistant and is used during peer review for all submissions to the journal. This significant innovation in scholarly peer review has been featured in the prominent engineering magazine, IEEE, Spectrum, as well as in other media. All editors are able to see the checks performed by Ira and are alerted of any issue in the manuscript regarding quality. This may be, for example, ethics guidelines, language quality, and also image integrity. Furthermore, our editors are supported by our unique and dedicated research integrity team who scrutinize all submissions to our journal. This specialized team is unique to Frontiers and sets us aside from other publishers. And then there is our peer review operations team who are dedicated to ensuring a rigorous and transparent peer review process for all submissions to our journal. Finally, as a last note, I would like to share with you a little more about our research topics and the opportunity to curate and lead your own article collection, as well as the advantages it can bring. Here you can see a great example of a highly impactful research topic that has a wide reach across multiple disciplines, not only in oncology. This allows for a broader reach into different fields and also expands the global visibility of your collection. Additionally, the project can spark collaborations with fellow experts in the field, such as those who you may not have the opportunity to work with directly, especially during the current climate with the pandemic. And lastly, for research topics that achieve a minimum of 10 published articles, we produce a free-to-read and shareable ebook, which is also re-promoted by our teams, allowing your important research to be disseminated in an additional format. We really work as a publisher to ensure the success of your collection. So yes, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our little presentation and we look forward to your thoughts and comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa and Radisha. And we have some questions. The first question was, just a moment, I have to open, from Farah. He asks how far is important when we have to recommend 3 or 4 reviewers to the journal, and how to choose the right recommended reviewers. I suppose this question is not just for Martina, but to all other representatives.
I'm happy to take that, other than if it was directed at Martina.
Yeah, Teresa, you can start, and Martina will join us perhaps later. She is here, but sometimes she doesn't hear. Internet connection is not very good, therefore you can start.
Okay, not a problem. So I imagine here what we're talking about is the discussion from Martina's presentation with regards to choosing 3 or 4 potential reviewers for a manuscript that you've authored. That's how I've interpreted the question. As Martina did mention in her slide, sometimes the publisher will ask you for these names. Whilst this can be important to find people that are working in the field with your area of expertise and that you would trust, as we mentioned, I think, you know, it's a lot about trust as well, that you would trust dealing with your manuscript. It is very important to ensure that these people do not have a conflict of interest. I think that is the most important thing to highlight here. That a conflict of interest can really delay enormously the whole review process. It can also ultimately kind of disqualify any reviews at the end of the process. You want to choose a publisher who does these quality control checks, because worst case scenario is that your paper is published with a conflict of interest, which is not stated, and then this could cause quite big repercussions in the future. So whilst it's always helpful for a publisher, in my opinion, to have names of recommended reviewers, the most important thing to verify is their ability to be reviewers in your papers. Do you have a professional or even a personal relationship with these people, which would perhaps exclude them? I'm not sure if that helps at all. Farah, I believe it was Farah that posed the question. You can always unmute yourself and ask any other questions if you choose.
Martina, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Maybe just to add a couple of sort of more pragmatic thoughts here. I fully second what Teresa just said. It's very, very important to make sure there is no conflict of interest when you suggest reviewers. So have a look at, do the reviewers who you want to recommend, have they been recently co-authors on one of your papers? So that could potentially be a conflict of interest. Do they work in your same institution, for example? So there's a couple of things maybe you can do before you start thinking about reviewers. But then on the other hand, how do you find reviewers you want to suggest submitting to the journal? Have a look at your references in your paper. What did actually contribute to your work? And could these people be potentially good reviewers? And then have a look at, have the reviewers you want to recommend, have they recently published? Are they active in the field? Are they geographically well spread? So don't just pick people from sort of the same institution, the same geography. Have a look at diversity, but also have a look at different stages in people's careers. So, I mean, usually early career researchers, mid-career researchers, they may be more willing to do a review report, but then you would also want to look at the key opinion leaders in your field. Depending on the impact of your research, you also may want to go for sort of a more prominent figure in the field, but that very much depends on the paper you want to submit to the journal.
If I may just add to that as well, I totally agree with everything that Martina has just said. And actually, you know, most publishers should be able to support and help you. And again, I think this is, again, you know, when you should be able to contact your publisher. So for example, ask them who are already on their board as review editors. You know, who could you choose from a pool of active review editors already on the journal that might be able to handle your paper? And these will be people that have an ongoing relationship with the publisher and therefore more likely to take on your paper as a review assignment. And again, if you do have more early career researchers as review editors, and it's something that we fully support at Frontiers because we want everyone to be able to get review and editorial experience, please do ensure that you have confidence in the associate editor, so the handling editor of the paper, who will be overlooking the whole process and ensuring that these review editors are doing, you know, their review correctly and also supporting them in their role as review editor.
Okay, thank you very much. Margaret, do you have any comments?
Actually, I guess that the previous people just said everything I recommend for you. Especially, it is very, very important to avoid recommending person who are your co-workers or former co-authors, because it is a clear disclaimer for being a reviewer, because it is clearly a conflict of interest, and it is highly important for the peer review process that the reviewers would be impaired and would not be associated with authors by any means, because it's just not fair review process.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. If there are no other comments, I personally have also a question. Actually, two questions. The first question is, what do you think about anonymous submissions compared to the submissions with open names, and what do you think about weaknesses and strength of such submissions, and in opposite, what do you think if the reviewers' names will be open for authors, and perhaps in this case we will get a lower number of unfair comments from the reviewers, and this problem is being discussed in a number of journals, and especially researchers are interested in the fair comments, in the fair review, and when the names of the reviewers are closed for us, but perhaps either our names should be also closed, or the reviewers' names should be open.
I guess I can answer that, but mostly with my opinion about from editor and from researcher view. I guess that the best systems are double blind, that the reviewers and authors do not know the names of who is an author and who is a reviewer, because within authors, I guess it is very important to avoid any discrimination of any kind, because I guess that sometimes the authors might be favored because they have a successful name or they have a successful previous publications. And I also know as a researcher and as an author that the publications are not even. Some publications, some experiments you do are actually better, and sometimes you do a various work. So I guess it would be great if the reviewers would not be suggested by author's name to favor or disclaim the person, because it's not fair review. And also, I think that it would be good if the reviewers would also be blind, I mean double blind, because I know that also authors and active scientists might also be the reviewers someday. So it would be also the conflict of interest if both sides would know their names, because it would be an issue if someday you would need to review the person who you knew that reviewed you in a more strict way. So I think it's avoiding the conflict of interest when there are double blinds, and I guess it's more fair. And the most important part in that double blind fair peer review process is actually the editor, because that person is responsible for finding the right reviewers, for avoiding the conflict of interests, and actually good editors that you can trust in should be also the people who check the reviews and who will check the quality of the reviews. Because from my experience as a researcher, I was actually few times I had issues with the reviews, because I guess that the reviewers didn't really read the manuscripts carefully or the grant applications carefully, because some of the comments were you could find them easily inside the text and the first time. So it is very important that the editorial board would do the best job they can to just check the reviews and check the quality of the review and check if it is fair and if it is done good.
Yeah, the problem is that perhaps the comments are fair, but recently I have met, since I am a guest editor in the Frontiers in Oncology, and I have met the comment, for example, the paper was submitted about as an example, P53 is a reason of that and that and that. But the reviewer asks why you didn't investigate P21. But the main aim of the authors was to investigate P53, not P21. Perhaps P21 is also very important in this view, but in this case, it is possible to ask about P16, about all other proteins or genes, and then this story is without any end. And therefore, the comments are fair, I don't know fair or not, but in this case, if we receive very negative comments regarding additional experiments which are mostly unrelated to the submitted paper, then we cannot accept this paper because the reviewer will be against, and we have to find any other reviewer, and another reviewer would find something else. Because I also met the situation when the reviewer said that although the paper is beautiful, I, as a reviewer, should find any weakness, and I should comment this weakness. But all manuscripts have weaknesses, and if you see that the manuscript is quite good, why you are searching for such weaknesses specifically? And therefore, finally, these reviewer comments are unfair, in my opinion. What do you think? Perhaps I'm wrong, but I suppose a lot of researchers have the same opinion.
As a researcher, I must say I can agree a little bit, especially when the reviews are not really in the scope of the manuscript. I personally also have some kind of that reviews myself. However, I know that the good editor and the good journalist, if the reviewer is demanding something that is outside of the scope of the manuscript, then actually the editor should also be in charge and should be involved in this discussion with the reviewer, because there is not only the reviewers and authors, there's also an editor. So that person actually, if there is something like that, that person should contact the reviewer, or just give him or her some comments about that. Some comments are out of the scope of the manuscript. Also, I know that some authors also responded and respond to the reviewers that some of the comments are out of the scope, and actually I guess that in the good publishers, the editors are also the specialists in the field, so that people should be aware if it's actually outside the scope of the manuscript. So I guess that in this kind of situation, then the editor is the person who should be involved in such a discussion, and that person should be the one who is making a decision if we can publish this paper. Besides that, actually not fair, not fully fair review.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. Teresa, Ratisha, do you have any comments? Martina?
I would just like to comment about the collaborative nature of a review. Ira, as you know, through our peer review system, the idea really is to empower the author to be able to submit and publish the best version of their manuscript. If a reviewer hasn't quite understood what the manuscript is trying to achieve, it is the duty of the associate editor, the handling editor, to be able to ensure that the reviewer understands the mission of the manuscript and the scope of the manuscript, and is able to empower the author with their review comments rather than negatively impact the publication of the manuscript. Obviously, if the quality is not good, that is a different question. But what we're talking about is more about scope of the manuscript. So it really is the handling editor. And the way that we try and achieve this at Frontiers is really through this collaboration. So we have an interactive peer review. So whilst we have a single blind peer review process, we do really encourage discussion throughout all of the peer review process between authors, reviewers, and handling editors. That way they can all be aligned on the mission to make and publish the best version of this manuscript possible. And one of the important factors at Frontiers that we do like to talk about as well is that we recognize the editors and the reviewers for the work they do. You know, they often can help and really encourage the authors incredibly. So whilst it's single blind, as soon as the manuscript has been accepted and is published, the authors are mentioned as well as the editors. The editors are accredited for the work they've done on the paper. So the handling editor, the associate editor, and the review editor are acknowledged on the website. So it's really about community-driven focus. It's not one person driving an idea. It's about academics being able to support and empower other academics.
Yeah, I acted actually as you described, and editor-in-chief supported me, fully supported in the decision, but this is like an example how we should communicate with each other and how we should comment the decision sometimes. And although we have received negative decisions from the reviewers and negative comments, we could also make any positive decision instead of negative comments. We have an additional question from Tihomir Todorov. How many journals are currently with open access, while simultaneously there is also resistance in making more, and in the long run, all scientific journals with open access? Actually, I didn't fully understand the question, but perhaps if you have understood, or Tihomir, if you are here, you can explain your question. Please switch on your micro, and could you please explain what do you mean?
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I meant that I think the mission that Frontiers in Oncology has is a very strong one, to have open access of science, but in the same time, I think all of us notice that there are many other journals that are resistant to making this step to open access for science. So I wonder what our presenters' opinions are on that.
It's a fabulous question. It's really interesting, actually. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to answer it in 1 minute. But I think a lot of publishers are used to the paywalls. They feel very protected by the paywalls which have existed traditionally, and which is why open access can be very, they can be very resistant towards open access. So obviously the paywalls that existed traditionally were the subscription fees, which institutions or individuals paid to access journals. And it meant that authors didn't have to pay to publish, which was a very, very different model. And there is a lot of resistance to move to open access because of the different payment methods. Also, by publishing open access, we are giving a voice to researchers and authors that might not have necessarily been published in these paywall journals. So when we talk about open access, we are not discriminating either on necessarily novelty. We are a platform which will publish all high quality scientific research. we really do have a very rigorous yet transparent peer review process. How we don't want to exclude publications just because they're going to give us a higher impact factor or more of a citation score. We want to give a voice to all researchers globally, and we want researchers globally to be able to access our manuscripts and our publications. So perhaps I'd be delighted to take this conversation offline with you as well, if you would like. But as a very brief summary, it would probably be a resistance towards the impact that open access can have on impact factor or citation scores, and that you have less of a control, perhaps with regards to the direction of research, because we don't filter research as such. So yeah, as a basic answer, that would be it. Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any further questions? Okay, no further questions. I would like to close this session, and I hope that the representatives of the publisher will participate in our future conferences as well, and they will present also their publishers and answer their questions. And I hope that it was very useful for young researchers and also for experienced researchers. Next session will start a little bit earlier at 10:40 instead of 10:50. 10 minutes rest, and the chair. Yeah.
Ira, no, I think because all the time of the session was used, I would suggest to start at 10:50 if it's okay with the rest.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maya, very much. And Maya will be a chair of the next session, and we will start as it is planned at 10:50. Okay. Many
Thank you
for all presentations and participation in this session. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.